9/11, 2001. A devastating act of aggression on American soil. In its wake, loss, confusion, anger, and a deep sense of insecurity. How did it happen? Can it be prevented in the future? And can it be done without undermining constitutional safeguards and civil liberties? What is the cost of freedom?
The name the USA Patriot Act sounds good on the cover, but as soon as you turn the page, you realize that there's some dangerous stuff going on, and it's not just the Patriot Act.
How do we defeat the enemy without becoming the enemy ourselves? We do that by steadfastly adhering to the rule of law, both the constitutional authority of individual actors within our democratic system, and also the rule of civilized conduct of war.
Is our country safer today? I don't know how anybody can argue, oh no, it's not safer today. The proof is in the pudding. Have we had another terrorism attack? No, we haven't.
As American citizens, we have these rights. They are inalienable rights. And yet we now are at a time where, by a decision by the president to say, you are a bad American, you are an enemy combatant, I am going to remove your most essential rights. That's not in the Constitution. That is not in the Constitution. That is a critically mistaken grab of power.
Time after time, the question of civil liberties has been challenged during periods of threat. And when we've looked back at those periods, very often we've been embarrassed by the results of the diminution of civil liberties during those periods. And we've then had to struggle to reestablish the normalcy of civil liberties.
If you have a group that openly avers the desire to kill 30, 50, 100,000 people, that really is an act of war. It simply doesn't make sense to say that because we regret some of the things that we've done in other wars, that therefore anything we do in this war, no matter how measured, how careful, how transparent, is necessarily excessive.
One of the challenges of the Patriot Act is that while it's being enacted in the name of the war on terrorism, it has nothing to do with the war on terrorism. These are powers the government wanted before September 11th. They're powers they still want, and they're powers that they use against people not for terrorism charges, but for anything they choose.
History tells me the rights that I'm protecting are not someone else's, they're my own, and that if my children are going to be able to enjoy them, it's necessary for me to live my life in a way that protects them. It's not a selfless act. It's necessary, and it's that necessity that causes one to act in spite of one's concern about fear or retribution.
Americans are very susceptible to conspiratorial views, and in those moments, sadly, we tend to abandon our principles of liberty and freedom. That's when we get coercive, because we get frightened.
The Patriot Act is only one of many problems that have been launched in the aftermath of September the 11th. There's the Patriot Act, there are the rewritten FBI guidelines, there are programs like the Total Information Awareness Program of data mining and data collection.
2 days after the attacks of 9/11, a survey of Americans revealed that 66% were willing to sacrifice their civil liberties to prevent further terrorist attacks. With nearly 3,000 deaths in the World Trade Center alone, tragedy united the people and their government in the desire for a quick response to the terrorist threat.
Right after 9/11, after the first National Security Council meeting, the President turned to the Attorney General and said, "John, you make sure this does not happen again." The Attorney General took that charge and turned to the Department of Justice and said, "Review top to bottom all of our policies, procedures, and practices as it relates to the effort to prevent another catastrophic attack on the American homeland."
The government has an important obligation to justify the use of extraordinary power before that power is granted. Because of the reaction and the fear after 9/11, it was possible for this government to use that argument to claim powers that are so broad that we have reason to question whether the balance of powers in which government is supposed to be limited as a fundamental tenet of our governmental system, whether that still is a concept in which we believe as